With a population of about 200 million people, Nigeria is the most populous country in Africa, no doubt, and the 7th most populous country in the world. As a result, Nigeria has the largest consumer goods market on the continent. With these numbers, it goes without saying that there is a massive market and opportunities for profit and growth for manufacturers. However, success does not come easy, as operating conditions are equal to some of the most difficult in the world. Companies face an extremely daunting task trying to implement modern supply chain solutions in a market with a low maturity level and a crumbling infrastructure, with informal retailers, street vendors, and open markets accounting for about 90% of all retail sales. Our first guest, ONYEKACHI IZUKANNE, CEO of Trade Depot, is a retail startup using technology to solve logistics issues in the informal market. And he'll be telling us all about that. Welcome to the You're Still Watching The Money Show. Glad to have you join us. ONYEKACHI.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Good. Let's start this way. Just like I read there a while ago, the Nigerian retail market is estimated to be worth about $105 million, but modern stores account for just a paltry 2% of that. Apparently, there is a disconnect, or is it that being more than the people, especially the middle class, if you like, are yet to really buy into it? What's your sense?
Yeah, so I guess the first thing is, as far as the market is concerned, we are where we are, right? And where we are today is that of the volumes of retail sales that happen, like you already said, modern trade stores, and this is stores like, ShopRite, Spar, and the bigger supermarkets and hypermarkets account for 2 to 3%. There could be various factors accounting for this. Some could be cultural, some could be just, a function of where investment has gone. But where we are today, that means that the typical person, most times when they are buying soap or milk or bread, they will more likely, 97% or so of the time, to go to a neighborhood store or a small mom and pop than, a supermarket.
Good morning, ONYEKACHI. Tell us more about Trade Depot itself. I know that the mission there is to somewhat put together a fragmented Nigerian retail chain supply. Tell us more, firstly, about Trade Depot and also about the state of Nigeria's supply chain currently.
Very well. So I'll take those two things together. To understand what we're trying to do, it's useful to get a sense of the context, right? What the Nigerian retail, the African retail space looks like. So our focus is to put the power of e-commerce in the hands of these retailers, right? To make them getting access to the goods they need for their stores to be, as simple as a typical e-commerce transaction. Now, to put that in context, according to Nielsen's latest retail census figures, you have somewhere between 1.1 and 1.2 million retail stores across the country, which are largely independent small stores, right? And these are serviced by a very fragmented distribution layer. So many wholesalers, so many different open markets. In Lagos alone, you can count, quite a few open markets around town, and this is where these stores go to get supplies for their shop. Just looking at the number of middlemen in the process, looking at all the retail supply chain inefficiencies, there is the end result is that products at those stores are bought at higher prices than they could be by the stores. So that's the direct problem. So the focus for us is to aggregate these manufacturers and connect them directly to these stores.
Okay. So many issues you've raised, but I don't know. Let me take you up first on e-commerce before I then go down to talking about the fact of logistics and distribution, which your company is out to help solve. E-commerce spending, ONYEKACHI in Nigeria, is estimated at $12 billion. Projected to reach 75 billion in revenues per annum by 2025. Yet companies like Deal Day, OLX, 13 And a few others, I'm sure you're aware, they've shut down, citing non-profitability. An expert in financial technology, Tade Adelegan, says the future is still very bright. Is he being, if you like, overtly optimistic?
No, I mean, I agree that, the future is bright. I think it's always a good standpoint to have. But I think the conversation is beyond what you would traditionally define as e-commerce. So online commerce in the normal sense would account for not up to 1% of the commerce that happens, right? Across Africa, Nigeria is, not, probably half of that. So the context for us is beyond what you would traditionally define today as online commerce. And we're looking at the entire commerce space, right? So commerce is, you walking over to a bar to buy a beer, or probably you did, before the world became what it is now.
Tells me that you drink a lot of beer because you had to use beer to talk about what you wanted to talk about. Go ahead.
So in the broader context of commerce, which is largely 99% plus offline, how does this happen? It happens in brick and mortar stores, right? You and I walk into shops and buy stuff. That's really, the real commerce. I mean, 99% of the commerce. So the question for us is, these brick and mortar stores that we walk into to get the products that we buy, how do they get the products that they buy, right? That's the market we're going after. And if you look at that space and the complexities there, there is indeed an opportunity for the right type of technology. And you need to be realistic about who your audience is, but the right type of technology can play a very important role in really reducing quite a few of the supply chain inefficiencies that you have there today.
All right, your aim, actually, Tradable, is to build the largest rail distribution network in Africa.
Correct.
Paint for us a picture of what's involved and how you intend to actualize this dream.
Very well. So distribution is a two-sided play, right? You'll always have the supply side, right? The manufacturers who are making the products, and retail, which is where the product is ultimately bought by consumers, right? And to be a useful retail distribution platform, the manufacturers have to see you as the best route to market, right? The best way for their products to end up in the market. And the retailers have to see you as the ideal supply partner. And I guess these two things pretty much summarize our entire focus, our entire ethos, if you like, right? So the first thing is, how do you position as a partner that makes sense for the retailer? If you're trying to use tech, you can't just expect, for instance, to stick an app or a website in front of these retailers and they will suddenly start working with you. So you need to understand them. You need to figure out what channels will they work with, right? There will be folks that will use an app. There will be folks that will want to call a toll-free line. There will be folks that will want to be called, and there will be folks that want to be visited. You need to be able to take all that on board, right? For the manufacturer, what does he need? He needs visibility. He just doesn't need to push product. He needs to know where his product is ending up. Just think about this for a second. If you run an ad on any of these segments for any of the manufacturing brands, they are pushing out that ad for consumers like you and I to see it. But they're not expecting us, they're expecting us to walk into a shop next to us and they believe we will find their product there, right? So for a manufacturer, it's important to know that their products are in the right store. So that data is very important. We believe that being able to provide answers to these problems for both sides of the market positions you to be the ideal distribution partner.
I'm happy you talked about accessibility there, because one thing Nigeria has is a whole lot of people. And if you're talking about the world's biggest brands only being represented in about 30% of stores here in Nigeria, that obviously isn't a huge amount. There is still so much more of a gap that needs to be plugged. How do you intend on stemming that gap?
Yeah, so I mean, you see, aggregation plays a key role here, because what you're doing is doing what everyone would have done independently. So the different brands will have had or have to invest in trying to develop retail, find the retailers and find a way of servicing them, right? So I mean, first of all, there is some economies of scale that play in here, because you're doing it once, right? When you acquire these retailers onto your platform and you're able to service them, then if you were a big brand or a small brand, if you started making soap tomorrow and you're looking for how to get this into stores, the idea is that you can engage a partner like the platform we're building, make your product available, and we take responsibility for making sure that these products get into these stores.
All right. I get what you're explaining, but maybe I missed you. I actually wanted to hear, I think I heard you talking about, okay, what it involves, what manufacturers, the app here, but I actually wanted to hear how your trade depot, the trade depot, will help actualize this dream. I mean, what practical things that you have started doing, or that you're going to do to help the people you talked about, the manufacturers, and the whole system anyway. And then if you can add to it the question of logistics, which is one of the main bottlenecks confronting the online business. What part, again, is a trade depot playing to help solve this particular problem of logistics? Even the online retailers or e-commerce, they have this challenge.
Very well. So, I mean, it's a couple of things. I'll probably simplify this to say, first is the platform, right? Providing a platform to manage the flow of information. So, in the end, this platform is what enables the stores to place their orders, right? That platform today is available as an app over, an Android app, an app over WhatsApp, toll-free lines, USSD-based interactions. So providing that platform, which on the supply side also gives the supplier access to the data. So the platform is one thing. The infrastructure is another, right? And you talked about this logistics infrastructure, warehousing, transport assets like vans, vehicles, bikes, whatever is required. And then, very importantly, the execution, right? So we actually, invest in having people out there. So our people are on the streets, kissing the streets, visiting stores, onboarding them, helping them develop, right? These three things work together. So providing the platform on the one hand, having the infrastructure to do the work, but also then investing in the people that go out there to get the stores on board and get them using the tools.
So from a manufacturer, for example, and I'm one of those people you're talking about in business, how do I connect with you?
Very well. So manufacturers can just visit our website. It's Trade Depot. Just don't mind the plug, but it's tradedepot.co. So you just get on there. You indicate that you want to do this, and we will connect with you right away and have you set up.
All right, we're going to get back to you after this time out. We'll be back and we'll continue with our discussion. Please stay with us.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. We are still joined by the CEO and co-founder of Trade Depot, ONYEKACHI IZUKANNE. Good morning to you. Thank you for staying with us. I wanted to switch the conversation a little bit to look at credit and financing. I'm sure, it's no secret to you, but we've become aware of your Series B rounds of funding, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, raised up to $10 million. So if you could tell us more about this side of your businesses that seeks to extend credit to businesses. We'd love to hear more about that.
Very well. So, the more you work with these informal retailers and try to understand the things that are holding them back, right? You quickly find out that one of the big things, that is an obstacle is working capital. Now, these guys are mostly informal, so they are excluded, as it were, from, access to credit from traditional commercial lenders and so on. But they're running serious, profitable businesses, right? Businesses that are turning over meaningful values every month. So what this constraint does is that it makes it very difficult for these parties to grow their businesses, really. You will have someone who is in a position to do 10 times or 20 times the amount of business he's actually doing, but he's constrained because he can only buy so much based on the cash that he has, that he raised from family or he put together or she put together over time. So what we're focusing on doing now is to use the fact that we've been doing business with these guys. We have transaction histories for them to underwrite working capital loans to them. So what we do is say, look, madam, this is how much you spend every month. You know what, we can give you this money that will allow you to buy what you need to buy and then pay us as you sell the product off, or pay us back after a month or two, depending on how we rate this character from this user from a risk standpoint.
And
So, go on.
Thank you. I wanted to find out a bit more about those risks in your first round of funding, as opposed to the second. Have there been any difficulties? Has there been any type of surge in the amount of people who might have defaulted on those lines of credit that you've extended to them? How successful has the program been?
So interestingly enough, the default rate is really low. We've for the pilots we've been running, we've done a 97% repayment. And the reasoning is very simple. We're doing micro loans, right? We're doing, or we're extending credit of between 50 and 300,000, where we do to these parties. And these are parties whose businesses will do 10 to 20 times those volumes. So no one is looking to change their, to take off simply because they have that small ticket. But small as that ticket is, it goes a long way in helping that business. Also, we've built relationships with these parties. We know them, right? We're not giving loans as a business. We are focused on providing inventory financing to our customers based on how well we understand them.
And how do you, how do you get the finance to finance the people that you're financing? That's the question I wanted to ask.
Yeah, so it's a mixed bag, right? We're able to, for instance, source debt that they are not able to because of our profile. We are able to back this up as well with some institutional funding that we have access to. We also get some lines of credit extended to us by suppliers. So, there's, if you like, a whole cocktail of sources that provide the required working capital that we then, extend to the retailers.
Now, let me go back to e-commerce again. What's the place of e-commerce in a growing economy, in growing an economy like ours, Nigeria's? And do you think our leaders are positioning the country well enough for e-commerce?
Very well. So, I would like to also make a slight distinction, right, between B2B e-commerce and B2C, which is e-commerce that is focused on selling to businesses versus e-commerce that is focused on selling to consumers. Now, I know that usually when the e-commerce conversation comes up, B2C is the focus, and there are documented stories of successes and failures and challenges, which I guess are common, but which have been largely related to the B2C story, right? In general, I reckon that e-commerce is always an opportunity, because think about it. It could be one of the most efficient ways of driving distribution, right? There are a couple of hurdles that need to be scaled. I reckon that infrastructure, the availability of the right infrastructure would make things easier, certainly. I reckon that having better identity and trust systems, and I believe both go together, would make things easier. By identity, I mean knowing who someone is, right? So obviously there are if you like, more infrastructural things that would make the process easier. But I think that trade is the oldest business that man has done, right? And even if you don't focus on replicating a Western model, I believe there are models that work here, and there are incremental ways of getting these models closer and closer to the ideal.
Which kind of models are you looking at? So
again, our focus here is we find that our people, for the most part, prefer to buy in the middle of a conversation. I don't know how else to put it. So you're more likely to find a customer willing to buy stuff off you when they can chat with you than going somewhere that there is no one and just clicking and adding stuff. And you will notice sometimes when you travel out of the country, you go to a store and people are going about picking stuff and putting in their carts and going out. I have the urge to find someone to talk to and say, look, this pair of trousers should. Did you get? So we've seen quite a bit of that. Even in the interactions that we have with these retailers, we realize that the most successful channels that we engage with are the channels that provide some forum for conversation and feedback.
What is next for Trade Depot? If you were to look at, oh gosh, we're past the halfway point of the year, and if you were to look at this being a year that none of us were expecting, this pandemic has obviously had an effect on all areas of life and business. So how have you been affected? How has the pandemic affected Trade Depot, and ultimately what is next for your company?
Very well. So I think I mentioned this in some other conversation. Obviously, this year was unprecedented, right? I think the biggest impacts have been, the way the curveball the year threw at everyone creates a lot of uncertainty, but also the fact that, simply the way we work, right? As a team, having to have more than 60% of the business working from home creates just a need for a whole different type of adjustment. And it's something you don't know how long it's going to last for, so you just have to deal with. But going forward, what our focus is to expand our footprint across the country. So currently, we are mostly active in, today, 3 states in the country, and we are on an aggressive expansion drive to be in most of the commercial centers across Nigeria over the next 9 months. So I reckon that will be what will be taking quite a bit of our focus, in addition, of course, to the credit services that we earlier discussed.
All right, ONYEKACHI, thank you for your time. ONYEKACHI IZUKANNE, CEO of Trade Depot, that's all. Oh, okay, well, I can still take one
quick question.
One more quick question. What has been or are your greatest challenges in terms of environment, in terms of getting the consumers or the people to buy into what you're putting across there very quickly?
Very well. I think the biggest challenges will be user behavior, right? Driving adoption. When you're trying to push technology to people that isn't really what they're used to working with, you have challenges along those lines. But I reckon that we found that a lot of engagement also helps you begin to scale those hurdles.
All right, I think cool.
That is a nice way for us to end. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and we can only wish you the best with Trade Depot. ONYEKACHI IZUKANNE, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot for having me.
All right.